We're trying to figure out what to do with your case. It has been in my court I have been informed that you have filed an action there in South Dakota.
Yes, sir.
What is the status of that action? What is it? A divorce?
A divorce and custody.
And are the children, both children, covered in that divorce case?
Yes, sir.
Well, there's a question about jurisdiction, whether or not the South Dakota has jurisdiction to make any rulings on children that do not live in the state of South Dakota. And I think Ms. Edwards wanted to address that issue so we can figure out what to do in this case. Ms. Edwards, what is the position of the state with regard to his action or our action here in El Paso?
Yes, Your Honor. And do we want to bring the other party in for this? So my concern is that Texas order is still in place for the child Deshawn, and we retain jurisdiction over those, over all of the issues regarding that child. It looks like Mr. Custer has filed and included a second child that no court has jurisdiction over at this time. And so arguably, I think in South Dakota, he could establish an order for that second child, but I do not believe that he's able to establish an order for the child Deshawn as long as Ms. Castillo and the child still reside here in Texas. And my understanding is that Ms. Castillo and both children are still residing here in Texas. And so my concern is that South Dakota does not have jurisdiction to proceed, at least on the child Deshawn, regarding child support matters. Mr. Custer has represented that he is seeking custody in South Dakota. And so at that point, I think my concern becomes that we have simultaneous pleadings where custody is at issue. If that's the case, then my recommendation is that the courts need to conference and determine which court is going to retain jurisdiction over the matter of the custody and visitation. Regarding the divorce, I think he can file divorce in South Dakota. I think he can file divorce wherever he wants. My concern is more jurisdiction with custody and child support. And we do have simultaneous proceedings here. And once he's telling me that conservatorship is an issue, then I become concerned that the courts need to conference.
Okay. Mr. Custer, what is your divorce? Is there any hearing? Anything coming up?
There was a hearing on February 12th, and she failed to respond back to the court. So now there'll be a trial for that on March 5th.
So you have a setting on March the 5th?
Yes, sir.
On the divorce?
Yes, sir.
And
from my understanding, it was divorce and custody.
Okay.
If I may, are you representing yourself in that, Mr. Custer?
Yes, ma'am.
My concern, Your Honor, is I didn't see an indication in the documentation. Granted, I did a cursory review, but I've gone through it a few times, that there is an indication that there is already an order. So I'm concerned that the South Dakota courts are not aware that there is already an order in Texas.
Okay. Ms. Castillo, sorry. Have you been served with a copy of the divorce petition?
Yes, I have the copy of the divorce.
Okay, my question is, have you been served? Has the sheriff gone out there and served you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When did you get served with the papers?
I got it last month, at the beginning of the month.
The concern that I have too, Your Honor, is I'm looking at this again, and in the petition, Mr. Custer states that he will pay child support. There's no, and he's seeking joint conservatorship. There's no indication, at least from this document that I have, that he's seeking custody.
Okay. Well, Ms. Castillo, where do the children live at this time?
They live with me and my mom and my stepdad.
All right, and the petition that's before my court today is a petition to include or to add the child Aubrey. And apparently she was added, she was born after the first order was done a year ago. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Ms. Castillo, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So the order that's presently that this court did back in January concerned only Jaden, and it set out child support, custody, and all that, health insurance and everything here in El Paso.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you, Ms. Castillo, have you talked to any attorney about raising jurisdictional issues on the divorce? Have you
No,
made
sir.
have you made any sort of appearance in the South Dakota divorce?
No, sir.
No. Okay. And Mr. Custer, what is the basis for jurisdiction in South Dakota over the children who reside here in Texas?
From my understanding, they're on my military orders, and right now we both have legal jurisdiction over them. So therefore, they told me I was able to fight for joint custody at the minimum, and depending on the terms of custody, if I was going to pay child support or not.
But are they aware that you've been ordered to pay support for at least one child?
Yes, I did let them know that.
How were they made aware of that?
I gave them a copy of my the petition or order of the child support that I have from Texas.
Okay. Ms. Edwards, anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. How does the state wish to proceed on this matter?
I think, Your Honor, based on my review of the petition that was filed in South Dakota, I'd like to proceed today, Your Honor, with our order. I think we filed first, and I think that this is still the home state of the children, and I would like to ask the court to proceed.
All right. Mr. Castor, anything else that you wish to tell me, sir?
So with the hearing that I'm going to have on March 5th for custody and everything, you said I wanted to contact South Dakota and they will contact you about the jurisdiction of the children?
I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do yet. I'm just
Yes, sir.
figure out what your position is. I mean, I don't see how you can maintain a lawsuit for custody of the children who do not live in South Dakota, and the children still reside here in Texas. There's a court order pertaining to one of the children. The second child that is being added to the case still does reside in the state of Texas, in El Paso, and has resided here in El Paso for at least her date of birth. So I don't see how South Dakota would have jurisdiction on custody or issues concerning the child. You can file a divorce and get your divorce in South Dakota. I don't think that state has jurisdiction over the children.
So am I not in a position to fight for custody or?
I'm going to conduct a hearing on this case concerning the petition that was filed by the Attorney General. Okay. I don't see the basis for jurisdiction in South Dakota over the children. We'll go ahead and proceed at this time with the AG's motion. So at that point, then let me go ahead and swear the parties in. If I can have both of you please raise your right hands. You swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
That's right, I didn't hear your response, sir.
I do.
Thank you, sir. All right, Ms. Edwards, go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. The state would like to call Mr. Castor at this time.
All right, go ahead.
Mr. Castor, please state your full name for the record.
Giovanni Elijah Custer.
And you are the father of Deshaun and Aubrey, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you are married to Miss Castillo at this time. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And if I may, Your Honor, ask the court to take judicial notice of the prior order in this case, which was signed by this court on January 9th, 2020, in which child support was already set for the child, Deshawn, and the parents were named joint managing conservators. And there was a order for child support.
All right. The court order of January of 2020 is in the court file. It does appear to be in proper form. And for the record, both parties agreed on the order. The signature does appear in the order. So I will take judicial notice of the January 2020 court order pertaining to the child, Deshawn Jayden.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Castor, you have already filed for divorce, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And where did you do that?
South Dakota.
And where do the children live today?
They stay with their mom in Texas.
And when was the last time that you were able to see them?
Back last month
And where was that?
in Texas.
And how often are you currently visiting with the children?
Due to COVID restrictions, I've been able to. It's been quite some time.
Okay. And so right now, the current order for Deshawn is that you guys have joint managing. So you share the equal decisions, and that you have a standard possession order, but visitation occurs in El Paso when you are on leave and when you are in El Paso. And those standard possession applied once a child was over 3. So that's what's in your last order. Okay. Are you still okay with what's in your last order for your child, Deshawn, and also your child, well, mostly for your child, Aubrey?
No, ma'am. I'm not trying to wait until they're 3 years old to have them come with me for some time.
And so what is it? Let's talk about conservatorship first, which is joint managing or sole managing. Are you okay with sharing the decisions for your children with Miss Castillo?
With that, if I don't agree with something, is she still allowed to do it? When it comes to our children, like medical issues or anything like that?
Yes.
Okay, because last time there was an argument about that, and I know that I have my rights as well to my children, and she proceeds to go regardless of what I say because she says that they're in her custody right now. But I know that at some point I have my right to say as well.
Okay. So are you okay with her still having the children residing with her?
I mean, not necessarily, which is why I'm trying to go to court about it.
So you want the children to reside with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Why do you think that's in the best interest of your children?
Stability, number one. I know financially I can take care of my children. There's a home, vehicle under my name. So therefore, I know I can provide for them. Child care, everything will be taken care of.
And have your children ever lived with you since they were born?
My son has. Well, me and her, Miss Castillo were together. Yes, ma'am.
And when was that?
That was 2019. Can't remember the
So
month.
2019. So regarding decisions for your children, you want to be the primary and make the sole decisions for your children?
Yes, ma'am.
And you feel that's in the best interest of your children?
Yes, ma'am.
And regarding visitation, what visitation would you want Miss Castillo to have?
When it comes to visitation, it doesn't really matter to me. I will not hold it from her kids or anything like that. So I have no problem with visitation.
If you are going to visit your children, are you okay with the standard possession order?
No, ma'am. Just because I'm not sure when I can go and when I can't go. So I feel like I should be able to, whenever I have the time to do it, I shouldn't be stopped from doing it.
So what are you asking of the court as far as visitation?
at a minimum a day's notice. I guess not too much to ask for.
So right now, your order says that based on the agreement of the parties, the court orders visitation to occur in El Paso, Texas, when you are on leave and in town, and that you have to give 24 hours notice. Are you okay with that?
Does visitation include if they're able to come with me?
It means that they can stay with you, but it has to be in El Paso, Texas.
How can I change that?
I'm asking you right now what you're asking of the court.
Oh, I don't want to be restricted to being able to bring them with me.
So what do you want the court? If the court orders that she remains as the primary for the children and you are given visitation rights, what visitation rights are you asking?
Being able to take them out of El Paso.
Okay. And when do you want that to occur?
I go on deployment in March and I'll be gone for 6 months. So, I mean, as soon as I'm back. So September timeframe.
Sir, this needs to be an order that would cover visitation until the children are 18. And so what I'm asking you is, when do you want to regularly exercise your visitation?
Starting now then.
Okay, and when do you want to do that? We need to, usually the standard possession order has the first, third, and fifth weekend, and the holidays are rotated, or we have visitation in place if the time frame is, if you guys live more than 100 miles apart. And that turns into a different type of visitation. That's what's in your current order right now, unless you guys can reach a different agreement. So what I'm asking you is, are you okay with the standard possession order?
No.
Okay, so I need to know what you're asking of the court, sir.
I want at least a month where I could have them in South Dakota. Keep them for at least a month. I'm sorry?
What month?
I'll do September.
And when they're in school, sir, how do you anticipate that would work?
If I can get, summers and holidays.
So right now, the order, the standard possession order, when you live more than 100 miles apart, does allow you to have 1 weekend per month. And then it also allows for summer vacation and spring vacation. And you're able to extend those periods. Are you okay with that, sir?
Yes.
Now, you mentioned that you're not okay with waiting until the children reach the age of 3. Are you asking for that at this current time?
Yes, if it could be lower, yes, ma'am.
So you're okay with the standard possession order now?
That's for the 3 years old?
No, it just means that it would be in place now. You don't wait till they're 3. Is that what you're asking?
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
And you're currently in the military, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the order right now allows Miss Castillo to move anywhere with no regards to geographic restriction. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
How much do you earn in the military at this time?
My base pay is $21.50.
Okay. Do you receive BAH?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is that?
The BH here, I believe, is $11.50 or $1,200.
$11.50 BAH and BAS?
$3.90.
Okay. Do you have any other children?
Just those two.
Are you currently providing insurance for your children?
Yes, ma'am.
And you do that through TRICARE?
Yes, ma'am.
And one more time, do you have any other children, sir?
No, ma'am.
No. And I'd like to introduce the financial activity report. I may pull it up. I'm just trying to.
The financial report that was attached to the motion showed that there was no arrearage at the time of filing. Is that still?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that still the same?
No, there is an arrearage as of, well, today of 4485.
Okay, but prior
Child
month,
support and nothing in medical support.
it's confirmed 0 as of a prior month.
Well, there is also an arrearage of 4485 as of the last day of the prior month, Your Honor.
Okay.
I'll get the.
Only child support was set, right? There was no medical support since the child was covered on TRICARE.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Castillo?
Not at this time.
Okay. Any other evidence or testimony?
I'd like to call Ms. Castillo.
Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Castillo, can you please state your name for the record?
Brittany Danielle Castillo.
And you are the mother of the child, Deshawn and Aubrey, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you heard the evidence and the prior order information. And so in the last order, you guys have the standard possession order, except that Mr. Custer is able to visit when he's here in town. Are you okay with the standard possession order?
No, ma'am.
Okay. What visitation? Let's talk about custody first. The children are residing with you, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you asking to remain joint managing so you share decisions for your children?
What do you mean by that?
So your prior order has joint managing conservator, meaning you make decisions for your children together, but they live with you primarily. Are you still okay with that?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you still okay with being able to move anywhere?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And regarding visitation, are you okay with Mr. Castor having the standard visitation order for both of your children?
Yes, ma'am.
So just a minute ago, you mentioned that you had some issues with visitation. What are those?
I'm not really comfortable with them going when they're small. I would rather wait until after 3 for my son, and then after 3 for my daughter.
So you're asking that this court continue the continue the visitation as it was previously ordered.
Yes.
That the standard possession applies after 3?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you still want to keep in place that he's able to visit when he's in town as long as he gives you 24-hour notice?
Yes, ma'am. That's fine.
So that's what's in the order. You're okay with keeping that?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, do you have safety concerns with Mr. Castor?
I like around where he lives.
Well, are you asking that he not know where you live?
Oh, yes. Yes, ma'am.
So right now the order says that he's going to pick up the children at your residence. Are you not okay with that?
No, ma'am.
Where would you want him to pick up the children?
Preferably if we can meet somewhere like a place, a little store or restaurant.
What place?
Between us, it would be Target. Target would be fine.
Which Target?
The one on Joe Battle and Zaragoza.
Okay. And regarding Mr. Castor's income, to your knowledge, is that all accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And he is providing insurance for your children?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you asking for back pay for your child, Aubrey?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Have you lived together since that child was born?
I'm sorry?
Have you lived together since Aubrey was born?
No, ma'am. I had Aubrey over here in El Paso, and we're already not living together.
Okay. And Aubrey was, how old is Aubrey now?
She just turned 1 in January 21st.
Okay. And so Are you asking, has he given you any money for Aubrey during that time?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I have no further questions for this witness. If I can recall Mr. Castor for some follow-up.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Castor, you heard Ms. Castillo mention that she wants to exchange the children at a neutral location, that she does not want her address to be disclosed. Are you okay with that?
No, ma'am. Just for the fact that my mom just picked up the children as well on certain weekends and stuff like that. So I don't see why having her address would be an issue. I don't hardly ever in town, first of all. So I know for my family's reasons to pick up the kids and see them, I don't see why there would be an issue with that.
And so you're not okay with there being a non-disclosure. You think her information should be printed in the order.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that there's been, okay. Regarding the back pay, you heard her testimony that she's requesting back pay. Have you provided any support for Aubrey in the past year?
So she's asked for extra money within the past year on top of child support, and I have definitely sent her some and ordered stuff for my child as well. I'm not sure how much exactly, but I know I have.
If you had to quantify that, sir, which I need you to do, how much would that be?
At least a few hundred.
Right. Can you give me an exact figure, please?
I'll say at least 500.
500.
Yes, ma'am.
And have you lived together?
No, ma'am. Then I have one question as well. So I know somewhere on there it says something about denied contact with the children as well. That's been a huge issue because she'll get upset over something and block me, and I won't see them for about a week or have contact with them for at least a few days, a week. The longest it's been is 11 days. Is there anything I can do to protect my rights against that so I can see my kids every day?
I don't believe that's in front of the court at this time, sir.
Okay.
If I may show you what's being marked. I do have a financial activity report, Your Honor. I don't know how you'd like me, would you like me to email it to the court or?
Let's go ahead and email.
Okay. And it does show that arrearage of $44.85.
That's as of the end of the month, last month.
That's as of yesterday, Your Honor, because I will be asking for a retro judgment.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, send it to me.
So I have no further questions of the witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Do have some questions with regard for Ms. Castillo. Ms. Castillo, has anything happened between you and Mr. Castor? Order was done in terms of any threats of family violence or actual family violence on his part?
No, sir.
Because the prior order did not have a non-disclosure. Your address, phone number, place of employment was included in the order. So what is that now that you're asking for non-disclosure?
It's because he's always when he does call his children, he'll talk to them, but he'll be talking to me, and he will just be like, "Oh, I know where you live. I know where you're working at," and it's just like I don't understand how he knows when he's not even here. So that's why.
Is it the same address that's in the order?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Have you moved since the
No,
last
sir.
order? And you're still working in the same place since the last order?
I'm working at a Leveling Up Learning Center.
All right. I'm just trying to figure out why it is that you're asking for non-disclosure if it wasn't granted or you weren't seeking it the first time and the order was done just last year. Okay. Question I have for you, if Mr. Castor calls you and says he wants to visit with the children, do you have an issue with him taking the children to South Dakota where he lives?
Yes, sir, I do.
Let me get what the problem is. What is the issue that you have?
because he does get called into work and he has no one to watch my children. And as of right now, he has someone in the house living with him.
Do you know who this person is who's living with him?
No, sir, I don't.
So how do you know he lives with somebody?
Because he has told me he has a roommate. He's living with a roommate.
Is this roommate a female or male?
It's a male, sir.
All right. When was the last time that Mr. Castillo saw the children?
On the week of her birthday, January 21st, he was here.
So last month.
Yes, sir.
How long did he visit with her, with the children?
3 days.
And where did he go with the children the last 3 days?
To his mom's.
Oh, his mother lives here in El Paso?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any problem with him visiting with the children there with his mom and here in El Paso?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you, ma'am. I have no further questions for Ms. Castillo. Anything else from either party? Ms. Edwards?
Nothing further, Your Honor. The state rests.
Okay. With regard to Aubrey, the child that's being added to the case, Mr. Castro, you have no issue that you are the father of that child, right?
No, sir.
Okay, and Ms. Castillo, he is the father of Aubrey.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I find that that this child will be added on to the case. So that's part one of the petition that was adding this second child to the case. Based on the testimony presented here today, the court does find jurisdictional basis for entering this order. The children have lived here in El Paso, have never lived in the state of South Dakota, at least since the entry of the order that was last done last year. So jurisdiction with regard to the children is proper here in El Paso, Texas. I'm going to go ahead and appoint both parties joint managing conservators of the children. That was the order concerning the first child, Deshaun. I see no reason why not to include joint managing conservators on both children. No motion to modify has been filed to change the conservatorship. Visitation will be as previously ordered. Due to the age of the child, whatever visitation schedules the parties can agree upon, as long as visitation is here in El Paso, Texas. The children are too young to be taken out of the state. To find that there's no basis for a non-disclosure, that the disclosure of Ms. Castillo's address was previously ordered in the order in 2020. So not granting a non-disclosure. Let me see what else we can do on that. Okay, child support obligations. What is the state station, Ms. Edwards?
Based on the testimony provided, Your Honor, for 2 children, child support would be $925 per month. That would be effective March 1st. We would ask that Mr. Custer be ordered to continue the TRICARE for both children. The retroactive judgment for the child Aubrey would be a total of $3,336 from date of birth. If the court does grant the credit for $500 in direct payments, it would be reduced to $2,836 in retroactive child support. We would also ask that the court confirm the arrearage from the prior order of $44.85 in child support. And so the total judgment today would be $2,880.85 with a repayment plan of $50 a month, also beginning on March 1st, 2021. The retroactive judgment, Your Honor, was calculated by taking the difference in the obligation today and the prior obligation for a period of 12 months.
Tell me how the child support was calculated.
I took the base pay of $21.50
Okay.
and the BAH of $11.50 and the BAS of $3.90, which was $15.40.
Okay.
2 children. Oh, I get a different number, Your Honor. I apologize.
That's what I was thinking, because it's about, he's earning about the same amount of money as was in the order.
I don't know if I had sticky data or something, but I get $8.53, Your Honor. If I may redo my retro really quickly.
What is the net that you're working with?
The net is $34.10. And I did take the BAS and BAH as non-taxable.
So the new amount of child support is $850, you said?
$8.53.
TRICARE. And what was the retroactive amount?
So the retroactive amount now is $24.72. However, if we reduce it by $500, that is $1,972 for the retroactive. And then if we add the $44.85, the grand total is $2,016.85.
Okay.
As of yesterday, Your Honor.
All right, child support for both children will now be, since we're adding a second child, the child support will be $850 a month commencing March 1. Mr. Custer ordered to continue with the TRICARE for both children. And will grant a judgment for retroactive support, retroactive for the child that's being added to the case. That amount is 2016. Is that what you said, Ms. Edwards?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I didn't hear the last part.
Well, I'm asking what the retroactive amount was.
Yes, $2,016.85.
Paid at what is the recommendation?
$50 a month.
Okay, well, I'm going to change that to 25 and also confirm the arrearage on the other case, or the first case. Well, both will be paid off at $25. Also commencing March the 1st. Okay. That'll be the order of the court. Mr. Custer, you have any questions about the court's order today?
Yes, sir. If anything on the order is, if she fails to withhold her end of any of the order, can I do something about that?
Sir, I didn't understand what you're asking, what you're saying.
So if she fails to uphold her end of the order, what are my actions to do with that?
If anybody does not comply with the court order, they have to file a motion for enforcement by contempt.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Any other questions, Mr. Castro?
No, sir.
Ms. Castillo, any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, Ms. Edwards, go ahead and prepare the order, send it to me to the DocuSign, and I'll sign it. I want Mr. Custer to have the order in time for his hearing, which he said was, maybe he said his hearing was in March sometime.
Yes, and it's my intention to send a copy to South Dakota as well, Your Honor.
Very good. Okay. All right. So she will prepare the order, send it to me. I will sign it, and it'll be filed with the clerk's office here in El Paso, and copies will be sent to the parties. Okay. All right. That concludes our hearing. Parties are excused.